Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-hostess, Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Grieflings and Frightlings, it's Margaret, and we're venturing a little bit off the horror film track today, sort of. We'll see. Anna, what movie are we talking about today?
We are talking about the movie Anora. Yes, the Oscar-winning film. To be completely fair and just, Margaret and I elected to watch Anora. I'm sure many of you have already heard our take on the Oscar win and kind of what happened, but to be completely objective, we did think it was necessary to watch the film and
Yes.
provide some feedback and thoughts, just from a thanatological perspective. And also, I think from this perspective of cisgender women, um, because I think that that is very much something that we can comment for this film. I know for me, I love the movie Showgirls. I think it's amazing. As a kid and even as an adult, I always thought Pretty Woman was really stupid. So that's kind of where I was coming in from. What about you, Margaret?
Ooh, yes. So I love the substance. I love female creator driven films that really give voice to that experience. So I came in a bit skeptical because I knew this was male created. Really quickly, trigger warnings before we jump into it:
Mhm.
nudity, sexuality, sex workers, objectification of women, violence. What else? Violence against
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, violence against women, vomiting, um, just aggressive behavior in general, female competition, familial obligations. I think a lot of it too is the despondence of youth. I
Mhm.
think that that's a huge theme and a huge trigger in the movie.
Yes. Ooh, thank you. I will say the first 40 minutes was 40 minutes
Mm-hmm.
too long. I didn't need 40 minutes of them partying, having sex to get the gist of him rebelling against his parents and
Mm-hmm.
her trying to find herself, trying to escape her
Mm-hmm.
situation. When we get to him running away, I feel like the movie shifted gears.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of the movie, I was like, yeah, this is a good movie from him running away on. The first 40 minutes, I was bored. I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
like, how many times do I have
Yeah,
to see them at the club or see her dancing for
right.
him? We get it. He objectifies women and he is a misogynist because he's got mommy issues. So, and she wants to escape her situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, for me, my concern, which going into the film, it was a concern, it's still a concern, is the first, like you said, 40-45 minutes, we're spending so much time at the gentleman's club. And I have a huge amount of respect for sex workers. We've talked
Mhm.
about this before. It is not easy work. It is not fun work. It is not a 24/7 party. It is work. When you go to work, no matter what you're doing, it's called a job. It's called work for a reason.
Yes.
And I was very, very concerned. I'm still slightly concerned that the film glamorized sex work. And like any other type of work, there are great times and there are low times. It is dangerous at times. It is not easy. It it's not just a party. And I'm very concerned that a lot of younger people are going to see this movie and be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go work at a club. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, because there's not a full showing of the stress and anxiety and worries that a lot of
Mhm.
sex workers experience.
Thank you so much for mentioning that, right? Because the movie does glamorize sex work.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, no, it's not glamorous. And then we see Anora, or Annie, as she likes to be called, that she has been so objectified in her life that the only way she can connect with people is through her work. Most of us, when we're not working, are not like, let me go ahead and work for you. And that her
Yeah.
only way to escape is through using her body, which is heartbreaking and devastating. And I don't know how many people are like, this is sad. Like, her character is tragic. Even the end of the movie, the only way she knows how to connect to
Yeah.
people is through being a sexual object. Like,
Yeah.
why couldn't she just crawl into his lap and him hold her? We knew he
Yeah.
had feelings for her. We knew he wanted to take care of her. We knew he had sympathy for
Right.
her. And then she has sex with him.
Immediately wants to have sex with him. And
Yes.
for me, I think too that Anorah's story is the story of a lot of us in our 20s. I mean, how many of us end up with someone that acts interested but is really just consumed with their juvenile behavior, doing and saying what they want to get what they want, and then when you need them, they're gone, right? So that's not uncommon. What I enjoyed about the end was that at some point she was vulnerable enough to start like weeping in Igor's arms, right? So to me, I'm like, well, oh, this might be the story of how they actually ended up together, which to me, it's not that sad or tragic of an ending. Like, there's a really positive aspect to that, right? And he seems like a much better choice than the spoiled 21-year-old rich boy, because he lives with his grandma. He helps take care of her, obviously loves her. He's working, trying to do whatever he can. He has kind of no behavior that, like, I can spend money and do whatever I want without consequence because somebody's going to bail me out. No, like, several times throughout the movie, he's like, if I do this or I do that, I'm fucked. So he's an adult. And
Yes.
yeah, so I just think that the other thing for me that was really hard, we know that Anora has her mom's in Florida, right? Their grandmother has passed away. She lives with her sister. She's known this guy for what, 2 weeks? And she goes up to marry him. I'm like, what are you thinking? Where is your friend or family member to be like, girl, like, get a grip. What are you doing? You do not know this person. And that's for anyone. That's what's very concerning to me is you're going out, you're having fun, you're partying, but when shit goes down like it does in the movie, are you going to be there for each other?
Yes. No, she's picking unavailable people because she knows unavailable. We could guess that that is what she knows. That's what she's most comfortable with. So she doesn't have people there to say, what are you doing? She's desperate to escape. And the only way she knows how, like you touched on, and so tragic for so many female bodied people in the United States, is they learn early on that their body is a way
Yeah.
to get their needs met. And we see that throughout Anorah's story, that her body is how she gets her needs met. So here's this guy, he likes her body. Maybe he really is going to rescue her and take her away. That early 20s where we're just like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm going to like hitch my wagon to the first
Mm-hmm.
horse that comes through because it's got to get me out of here. And that
Right.
he had no intention of.
No. And the age too, I think, has a lot to do with it. We know that biologically our brains are not fully developed until the age of 25. So to say that they're both exhibiting somewhat juvenile behavior, yeah, absolutely they are, because they're both under 25. And for me, when I'm watching this movie, I mentioned before, I love the movie Showgirls. I adore Nomi. Also, we've talked about before the movie Working Girl, right? So the big difference, I think, in these films were that our protagonists were slightly older, right? And so we look at Nomi, and she has a past, man. She's trying to escape whatever has gone down in her life. She'll do whatever it takes to get what she sees as success. but everything else is a sideline, right? So her focus is her goal. And then if we look at the movie Working Girl, Tess, her initial partner is somebody who is very misogynistic, that only sees her as a piece of meat and doesn't see the value in her mind and how hard she's worked to get her degree. And then, you know, she ascends in this corporate ladder with these ideas that she's had, that she's collaborating with Harrison Ford's character on. And they do end up together, but he's supportive of her goals and her work, right? So there is no dynamic in Anora of that. We don't know even if, you know, Anora, Annie, if she has any goals beyond not having to work at the club anymore. Like, you're 23. Do you want to go to college? Do you want to get your own home? Do you want to buy a vehicle? Like, what do you want? And there's no discussion of future or life or goals between her and this guy that she marries. And I just found that to be very astounding.
Well, like you said, they're young. They're still partying.
Yeah.
They're not thinking of goals. They're thinking about having a good time, having fun, escaping reality. He's really, well, he knows reality is coming because he
Yeah.
knows his parents are going to take him back to start working
Mm-hmm.
in the family
Right.
business.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, you know, this is not said in judgment, but thinking to where I was when I was her age, I was working full-time job, part-time job, going to college, and preparing to buy a house. So I feel sad that no one instilled those independent values in her.
Again, this movie really
Yeah.
is that she is a woman and she gets her needs met through her body, and that it's going to take a man to rescue her, to
Yeah.
do whatever it is. And that is part of the movie that just, it rubbed me the wrong
Yeah.
way, that it's going to take a man to do it. She,
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, where are her goals? Where is this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's the
Yes.
person? Like, you don't need a man. Even his
Yeah.
mom could have been like, girl, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you don't need my son to
Mm-hmm.
be better. Instead, she was like, oh, my son married a hooker.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, a lot of I don't want to say the henchmen, because, you know, they weren't henchmen, but the men that were tasked with babysitting
The
Alexi.
handlers.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, they consistently were like, I'm so tired of this. This kid is such a pain. Like, I just want to go back to my life. Even the one guy, where was he from? Goodness, it'll come to me. But he was, I want to say he was from Yemen, but I'm wrong. But you know, he's like at church and he gets called out, and he's at, like, we assume his grandchild's christening, and he's like, I just want to get back to my wife and my family. You know, and instead I'm dealing with this nonsense. I almost kind of felt bad for his handlers, because that had to be a very stressful job.
Yes, they seemed stressed. They seemed likable. And even
Yeah.
like when they meet Anora and she's freaking out, rightfully so. She doesn't know if she's
Yeah.
going to be raped or
Mm-hmm.
attacked. Her
Right.
husband has ran
Like,
away.
runs out. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're like,
they're
we're
like,
just trying to figure this out. Like, and
yes,
yeah.
please calm down. Please talk to
Yeah.
us. We're,
Yeah. We're just as lost as you in this.
yeah.
Yeah. And she doesn't, yeah, she's so used to that negative male energy that she can't take a moment to really evaluate what's going on, because she's so anxious and so keyed up that this is her natural reaction, which is very unfortunate.
And that, like, the contrast with her and Igor, where he doesn't get it. Like, when she's like, you have rapey eyes, and he's like, I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Like, we know he
He's
lives
just,
with grandmas, so we can guess that he's had some heavy female influence in his
yes.
life, to where he is like, what is going on? Like, why is
Yeah.
this woman so
Mm-hmm.
defensive? Why? So he's had strong female role models, to the point where
Yeah.
we can see him really struggling to
Mm-hmm.
understand her, where she's had really negative male role models.
Yeah.
So she is just projecting that. onto him. And we can see too, as a woman right there, like he's looking at her. She's an attractive woman. So yes, he has desire in his eyes, because that is a theme that
Yeah.
in this movie, and that she's like,
Mhm.
no, you have rapey eyes because you want to do harm to me, because men have done harm to her.
Absolutely. Well, and I just, I, I really, it's just so sad to me. I know I keep circling back to it, but the whole no one there to be like, dude, what are you doing? Um, because I feel like at that time in my life, I was that friend. I would be like, that guy sucks, or that girl sucks, or that's a bad idea.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'd be like, that's a really bad idea. Let's do it anyway. But you're usually like trying to be some sort of voice of reason. Um, and I think to me, the closest that she actually had to that in the movie was Diamond. And the reason I say that is because Diamond is a good decade, probably older than the other girls. So she's a seasoned dancer, right? She's been around. She's had probably a heavy dose of her high rollers that made promises that they couldn't keep up to. And I think that her cruelty isn't competition, it's because she sees herself at that age in the other girls. And that's why she's so mean.
Ooh, I love that take on Diamond. I appreciate you sharing that, because I took her as that cattiness that women can get, like, oh, you dance with my person, because we see that at the beginning. She's like, so and
Mm-hmm.
so came in, why'd you give him a dance? And Anora's kind of like, well, it's
Mm-hmm.
business, like, of course I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this. And so Diamond being like, okay, tat
Mm-hmm.
for tat, like, I'm gonna do this. And that bothered me too,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like we just see women, there's no female camaraderie, there's
Mm-hmm.
no, like, hey, we're in this together, we share this biological similarity, how do we support each other? And we could say, like, in the substance too, it's this female competition driven by the male gaze, driven by the dominant masculine society, to where then women come at each other, they do these
Mm-hmm.
things that they marry people that aren't the best for them, they take the stuff that's gonna make them be able to be desirable. And both movies did a good job of making men like, ugh, disgusting, and then
Yeah.
also having that man
Like,
that's like, hey, like,
like a
I
good
want to
dude.
support
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
Igor, or the guy in the restaurant with Demi Moore, or her
Yeah.
high school guy, where it's like, hey,
Mhm.
like, I like you for you, like.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a bummer. I think that, you know, at some point in all of our lives, we opt for the non-safe option, right? And
Yeah.
that's part of experiencing life. It's part of growing and learning. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think part of this movie also was just, it was like, yeah, most people go through that. Like, most people have a hump and dump, and then, you're devastated, but eventually you have to move on. And like, I don't care if you're a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company, or, you're steam pressing laundry at the dry cleaners that your family owns. Like, we all usually, if you define yourself somewhere within the spectrum of human sexuality and wanting or desiring a partner, I think that we all experience, for the most part, a negative partnership. I mean, I think you're lucky if you have just one.
Yes. Oh, I agree. We are a society of traumatized, hurt people
Mm-hmm.
trying to live life. So, of course, we connect and
Absolutely.
collide and
Yeah.
do all of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and when we have the connecting and colliding, it makes the more positive experiences even more worth it, though, right? So if we didn't have the duds, we wouldn't be so excited and happy for the in-betweens and the super awesomes.
Yes, because we're growing and learning and figuring it out. And so we can hope
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
Anora grows,
Mm-hmm.
Igor grows. Who do you most
Yeah.
relate to in this
Well,
movie?
Funny you should ask that. I actually, Diamond.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do, because I feel like if she and Anora got past their disagreement and not getting along, she would have been the one to be like, you're stupid, don't do this. Because I feel like although she is petty and catty, there is this brutal honesty and directness that she has. And I feel like if they would have been friendly with each other, she would have been that reality check person in Annie's life. I feel like she would have been like, is this a good idea? Like, what are you really doing here? Let's be smart. Let's look at the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Versus so many people around her not doing anything at all.
Ooh.
At least that's how it goes in Anna Land.
What about
what about Margaret, Bill? What are your thoughts?
I am gonna go with the dad. I am there. I'm along for the ride, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just laughing. Like, this is ridiculous. Can nobody see the ridiculousness in this? Like, when they're getting the marriage annulled and the mom is freaking out and Anora's freaking out, and he's just sitting there laughing, like, oh my gosh. Almost, I feel like the dad was like, I created this mess, and at this point, the only thing I can do is laugh while I try to clean it up. Like, this is partly my fault, and right now I can just laugh because
yeah. Well, and I think I was kind of bummed out because I had heard that the family of the Alexei kid was like connected or in the criminal world or something. So I was really excited. I was like, okay, at least there's going to be a lot of violence. But like my standard of violence, which this was not it. So to find out that they were just like oligarchs, I was like, womp womp.
yes.
Because I'm like, where are his Hitler's guns? Like, what are they doing? And then I'm like, oh, because his family, they're like all important in society. But I would rather have been them, like, had them be known like in the underworld. I feel like that would have maybe added some more pizzazz for me. But I definitely have an idea about what if the writer of The Substance would have contributed to Anora. How do you think it would have changed?
I think Anora would have been more empowered because we can look at Revenge and The Substance, and she takes that male gaze, that misogyny, that male-female dichotomy, and she shows how it impacts the woman, and then she empowers the woman to flip it, to do something, to change it. Or, well, we see in The Substance where it consumes our poor heroine, and we still see like this journey. I feel like Anora, I don't want to call her one note, she felt that way. I feel like she could have been, there could have been more to her, and that she would have had, well, I don't know if she would have had more female support, because if we look at Revenge, I'm like, that she's just a badass. She's just,
I think that
I think Nora would have been smart.
Just there wasn't a lot of depth to me, and until the end scene of Anora, I viewed her as a very shallow character. I was like, okay, she's kind of dim-witted and very shallow. And with that being said, from my perspective, I can tell that this film was written by a male. I just, to understand the feminine facing experience, typically you need to be feminine facing. Just like I couldn't write a script about a cisgender dude because I don't understand that aspect of the masculine facing experience. That would be really unfair to my characters if I wrote something and didn't consult people or ask for help if it was in relation to masculinity in life, right? Because I know and understand the feminine facing experience.
Yes. And we've touched on there are a handful of masculine filmmakers, Ty West,
Mm-hmm.
Ari Aster. Oh, what's his name? He did Men and Civil War and I
What
just had
is,
it on the
yeah.
tip of my let me look him up. Like these
Mm-hmm.
people, like when
Yeah.
they have female characters, you can tell that they have really invested into the female experience.
Right.
Where
Well,
is
and I
his
think
name?
the other thing too, I did some reading about the writer of Anora, and part of his commentary was on like the Russian and Eastern European experience in the United States as immigrants. And um, to me, I think part of what I didn't understand was, if this is part of the experience, why are we not hearing about, other than your grandmother never learned English, anything about your family, about your values, about what life looks like for you, about what life looked like in the old country? Because these are typically things that you hear when you have parents, grandparents, great grandparents that have immigrated. Um, so I feel like that was a very large missing puzzle piece for me. And I would venture to guess, once again, mistakes and poor decisions that we make in our young early adulthood, that's kind of a Western experience altogether in the United States. I don't think that that applies solely to one subgroup or ethnicity or culture. I think that that is something that we all do on a whole.
Yeah. Ooh, thank you for sharing that. And it's Alex Garland who did
Ah,
that's the other film creator that's able to bring more feminine into the female perspective. And you're so right. Like when you said that, I was like, that was part of his intention in the movie. I
mm-hmm.
did not pick up on that. I was like, okay, this is a Russian family. That's
Yeah.
all I
Like, okay.
got. And there's
Yeah.
you're right, there's so many ways you could allude to it. You know how
Mhm.
grandma would feel about the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe, oh, are you having a hard time becoming a citizen? I'm so grateful that my family immigrated here when
Yeah.
my grandma was a little girl. There's all these
Mhm.
ways. Oh, the old country beliefs is like you said. And there
Yeah.
was none of that. Like there was no
Mm-hmm.
Godfather-esque. I think about like family legacy,
Yeah.
immigration and all that.
Yeah.
Movies like The Godfather where you
Mm-hmm.
know that they are
Yes.
trying to balance
You know
new
who
country,
who
old
they
country.
are. Like, and I think I'm glad you bring that up. I think for me, because of my connection and attachment to the cultural aspect of movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, um, you know, films of that nature, it is because you are so strong in your culture and who you are and what makes that up to you. And there's none of that. I mean, that's like you said, it's just missing, it's vacant, it's devoid of those things. And I think they could have added so much to the movie if there would have been something there. I mean, even if Igor like brought some sort of food that his grandmother had made and was like, "Here, try this." And she'd be like, "Oh, this tastes just like my mom would make or my grandmother would make." And he'd be like, "Oh, my grandmother made it," or something, some sort of connection to establish, oh, okay, they are from the same culture. They're from, the same heritage. Their families probably have these sorts of similar experiences. Because once again, you look at the experience of the immigrant to the United States versus an oligarch who has children and lets them come here and play. They're very different things.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, completely agree. And they didn't I mean, it was a subtle tone through there. We could see with
Mm-hmm.
Anora and Igor, even the
Mm-hmm.
main handler that's
Yeah.
driving you, it's not that like, "Ooh, this is culture, we need to take note. You are showing it. Even you talk about like the baptism, like that. I was like, okay, it's a baptism culturally significant for him. I did not generalize that as that this was
No.
culturally significant for all the characters. He didn't even say that when he found
Yeah.
Vanya. How dare you? You know how important a baptism is in
Yeah.
our culture. Okay, right there, you connected the
Mm-hmm.
dots for me.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's one reason why Jordan Peele is the GOAT, because he's connecting the
Yes.
dots, or he's subtly to where you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, those two things go together.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. Yeah. And I actually got really excited at the baptism scene because I'm like, wait, is his father a bishop? And I'm like really like making up this whole storyline in my head, which was completely wrong. But I got excited for a split second. Yeah, it just was very lacking. I think that, and you know what I'm going to ask after I say this, but to me, the Oscars thing, at the end of the film, there's still that knight in shining armor, love conquers all thing that, especially, Disney generations were taught to believe, right? So that beats the fact of life, of aging, competition, how we feel about ourselves, how we view ourselves. And I think that, in my opinion, the Academy really needs to review their perspectives and assess what mainstream society is looking at and what they need. The other thing is, I think that, like, the boomers, there are so many of them right now. It would be beautiful to see something that is more appealing to their generation have a win, right? Because you have this huge group of society that I could guarantee probably relates way more to the substance than any other film that was nominated. Just a personal opinion. What's
Relate.
your, huh? With,
Yes, I think it's still
yeah,
horror, and horror
yeah,
still is not, it hasn't gotten the respect that it deserves yet. And so it's like, okay, no,
yeah,
even if this film is more significant and relevant, we're gonna play it safe. We're gonna go
yeah,
Anora
right,
route and not
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It just was not. It was not as expected. I
No.
think that, once again, to me, the irony of a woman of a certain age, Demi Moore, not winning the Oscar, to a younger woman of a certain age, further making it more ironic because Demi Moore did play a sex worker in one of her films. Technically, two, if you consider Indecent Proposal and What Happens, to someone who played a sex worker. So there are so many different, arenas and subject matter contexts that the irony is just not lost on me.
Oh, I agree.
Yes. So I think, for me, Anora was one and done. If you want to watch it, great. If you're looking for something that is going to appeal to you and you love, like, Godfather, Scarface, Goodfellas, Bronx Tale, like these sorts of films, you are not going to find that in Anora at all. So just be aware of that. Um, she's more, without the law career aspect, I think she's more of an Aaron Brockovich, maybe, dare I say, than like Nomi from Showgirls, maybe, is a good way to put it. Yeah. Just because she does have that brassness to the personality. But yeah, it's definitely a one and done for me. How about you?
Yeah, a one and done. And lots of people love this film. And if you love it, awesome. Share with us. What
Yeah.
was it about it that spoke to you? maybe we've missed something here. I'd love to hear that. It just wasn't my kind of film.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think that to me it was more of a like an okay, yeah, this is something that a lot of people go through, maybe not to this height of experience or this extent, but this is not uncommon. But as Margaret said, if you love this movie, please tell us what drew you into it, what caught you, why it has become one of your preferred films, one of your favorites. We would love to know your perspective. That's what's so great about this podcast is we're here to share our perspective and maybe help you look at things through a different lens, but we would love for you to help us look at it through your lens as well. So please provide feedback. Also, if you'd like us to talk about any other Oscar nominee films, please let us know, whether it was this year or previous years. We would love to know your thoughts. And until next time, drink your bruja brew, eat those coffin cookies, and make sure you howl at the moon. And don't forget,
like, subscribe, follow, comment. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time.
bye.